food producers call. Frosty day. But we want to talk about soil health. And as I indicated in the invitation I sent out, it'd be really great to know what people are doing for soil health just to get our call started. So I had some people send me a few things, which was really great. And then I printed it out and I can't find it. No, I'm sure it's in my stack here. But well, in the meantime, why don't you all go to the chat and just, if you wouldn't mind, just chatting in the things, typing in some things you're doing to build soil health. And then we can talk about that. If you're not growing anything and not really have your hands on the soil, well, maybe you heard of what somebody else is doing and then you want to put that in. Does that give everybody some ideas? Alice, I got something from you and I hope I can find it. I know I had it here. It was all prepared once. So this would be a good way to get ourselves started. What are people doing right now for building soil health? While we work on that too, we'll get people introduced. Colin, you put in a few things. You've got some acreages you're going to start on this summer, and it's in a cover crop, it sounds like.
Yeah, it's we just bought a property up in Lamar, Colorado. As far as I know, it's just been an alfalfa for the past 8 years or so. So we're planning on getting things going this next summer. We'll be back in March, so it's going to be kind of a little late, I guess. Not late, but we'll be pushing it to get things in order, but we're going to give it a go.
Great. You want to just introduce yourself quickly?
Yeah. So I was working for Schroeder's last year in Campo, Colorado. Working with them, they're doing their own meat delivery, and they had a 2-acre garden that I was working with to deliver 60 boxes a week to Senior Center in Springfield, Colorado. And we also did our own farmers market in Springfield as well last year for 6 Town Farms. I'm gonna plan on doing it again under a different name probably, but yeah.
Great, thank you. Let's see, Tiana, do you want to talk about anything you're doing at Red Willow for soil health or on your acreage in the Pueblo?
Yeah. Worm poop.
Mhm.
We're doing several different things, I guess. We've bought a lot of cover crop like winter rye, and just kind of threw that all over in our planting areas. We also have done this other project where we've laid down straw and wood mulch and cover crop and then like watered it with a compost tea. And we did that in the summer. And then we put a huge like 100 by like 50-foot tarp over that entire area. And it's still covered. It's been covered all throughout the winter. We're probably going to take it off, I want to say sometime in April. So yeah, just to like kind of eliminate the weeds and help build that soil back up, getting all the good worms in there. Hopefully they'll poop all over. And what else are we doing? We're also thinking about using straw. Being a demonstration farm, we kind of want to show like all sorts of different types of soil restoration. So we'll be getting into that. And one interesting thing I saw my farm manager do with our small growing boxes around our farm was he like emptied them out halfway and then just like put a ton of compost in those boxes and then covered them up with soil again. And we just planted immediately in there and everything did really well. So yeah, doing a bunch of different things, but I'm interested to see how our project with the mulch and the cover crop and the compost tea is going to come out. We have a little video about it. I can add it to the comments if you guys like.
Great. Yeah, I'd like to see that. Okay, thank you all for putting things in the chat box so you can see that people are doing different things. So Tiana, just quickly introduce yourself, would you?
Oh yeah. Hello, Tiana Suazo, Executive Director of Red Willow Center, and I'm also a board member for Ogallala Commons. So I'm kind of like Daryl's boss. Just kidding.
Good to have, good to be reminded. Thank you. Okay. Yeah. All right. So we have another a person on the call I want to introduce, then get over to you, Alice. So Suzanne Nicholson, would you introduce yourself and anything you're doing or people in the tabletop co-op are doing for soil health?
Good morning, Daryl. Good morning, everyone. Yes, I'm Suzanne Mickelson. I am with Rocky Mountain Farmers Union Cooperative Development Center, and I'm based in New Mexico. And I apologize for not having my camera on. I'm multitasking this morning. I'm actually in another hat I wear, as I am the Family and Consumer Science Extension Agent for New Mexico State University Cooperative Extension. And I'm starting a leadership conference with them. So I'm sort of multitasking this morning, so my apologies. I am not doing anything in particular through my work with soil health at the moment, although there are some of the co-ops I'm working with that are doing soil health kinds of things. We have a beginning farmers program with the tabletop co-op, and they've already done a nice, really nice, well done workshop on building the soil for our beginning farmers. There's probably about 8 beginning farmers in this program, and some of them they have varied experience. So some of them are pretty knowledgeable, and some are really just getting started. I am in my personal life working to build my soil for my own garden, and it is really interesting in Coy County or in Tucumcari where I live. That just within my backyard, there are at least 3 different kinds of soil. So working with that and trying to see what I can do to improve the soil here.
Thanks, Suzanne. Alice, you put some things in the chat that you're doing for building soil health. Just want to say hello, introduce yourself, and just some comments on some of the things that have been mentioned, but you're doing a few other things too.
Sure. I'm Alice Hill. I'm in north central Kansas, up by Luray in the Russell County area. We have farmed and gardened in Kansas our whole lives. This is a bit of a new adventure. So we've been here about 3 years, and I'm still learning the soil base. I'm still understanding the difference from this soil versus what I was accustomed to in Rawlins County. Essentially, bottom line for everybody, whether your soil's alkaline, whether your soil's acidic, whether your soil's rocky, sandy, full of clay, basically it boils down to adding organic matter, and it sounds like everybody's doing that. We are in an area where our soil, the pH is high, so it's alkaline. We've got a limestone base around here. So adding sulfur, when I open up a new garden area, I broadcast pellet to sulfur, which helps to bring down that soil pH. It's a slow release. It takes quite a long time for the microbes to break that all down. So it only has to be done about every 3rd or 4th year, depending on conditions and soil test results. Leaf mold is really helpful. I bring that in great big bags and then let it sit for 1 year to 2 years, and then just use that as a top dressing when I'm transplanting. Vermicompost, I have a fabulous source for vermicompost, and I add handfuls of that every time I transplant. That does an amazing job of adding micronutrients and increasing water holding capacity. Just any kind of organic matter, whether it's green manure crops that you grow and then either leave on the surface or turn under so that it can break down. But layering is really important. Just keep adding layers.
Thanks, Alice. That's great. Let's see. We've heard from, let's see. Well, Jessica, how about you? What do you want to say about soil fertility? Introduce yourself too, please.
Hi, everybody. I am Jessica Wright, Chef Jess from Nourish, Colorado. We work to support schools and institutions with starting to buy more local products and use those in their kitchens. And so I'm very much a backyard gardener, not a farmer or anything. However, over the last like 3 years since I've been really diving into the farm to school space, just starting to get all the tips from the farms that we visit and have started incorporating in the cover crops with the winter rye and the clover. Have started composting. I keep trying to get it. I feel like this year I actually can tell that stuff is breaking down. So I'm excited to probably have to sort through things and keep it going, but do that, compost teas. That's kind of basically what I'm doing and noticing it in my backyard, and the little soil tests with the pH kits and the nitrogen and the phosphorus. So learning a lot, and like to apply these principles when we support schools, especially with school gardens. So that's me.
Thanks, Jess. Looks like Blaze Diamond is on our call, so I don't think we've been introduced to Blaze before. Blaze, you want to say hello, introduce yourself, and anything you want to add about techniques for soil health, tools, or things you're doing?
Hey everybody, I am Blaze. I live in Taos and work with Tiana at the Red Willow Center. So I'm just gonna kind of tag on to what Tiana said about building healthy soils. So it's so nice to be here with everyone today.
All right. I think we've been introduced to everyone except Bertha. Bertha, you put some stuff in the chat, so that gives people a little bit of information. Do you just want to introduce yourself since you're our Southwest Kansas person on the call today?
Sure. Bertha Mendoza. I work for K-State Research and Extension, and I facilitate nutrition education. With that, while I have connections with farmers markets and families wanting to grow their own fruits and vegetables at home. So that's my connection at this time. I have a little background on agriculture, so soils was my passion at that time. I haven't done much in that area now, but I'm just looking forward to learning from all of you, because I know this information we're going to need it from now on. Is going to be more frequent that we're going to get questions from families in the community wanting to grow their own garden, have their own gardens, and grow their own vegetables. Thank you for inviting me.
Good to have you, Bertha. I forgot there's two more people. So Aaron with San Luis Valley. Do you want to just introduce yourself and anything you're seeing or doing with soil health, building soil health?
Yeah, my name's Erin. I'm a volunteer with the San Luis Valley Local Foods Coalition, and I am focused on the Rio Grande Farm Park. So we do a lot of cover crops there, and we're also working on building our capacity to make compost at the farm park. And we're also starting to look into ways to reduce our tillage. So excited to hear from everyone else today.
Thanks, Aaron. Looks like we have Shannon on. Shannon, you just want to say hello quickly? Introduce yourself.
Hi, it's me and Jacqueline. I just got back.
Got the whole tower, the whole Red Willow team on. My goodness.
Yeah, almost. Yeah, so we work with Tiana and Blaze and Bruce over at Red Willow, and we're just jumping in the conversation to learn more.
All right, good to have you all. Chef Fez, we got Jess to say something, so would you introduce yourself and tell us about your efforts on soil health?
Yeah, good morning. Yeah, like Chef Jessica said, we work for Nourish Colorado, and we mainly work with institutions, schools, and trying to make farm to institution, farm to school the norm. I am a wannabe urban farmer too. I have a garden in my backyard. Been doing a lot of compost, not very successfully, but the cover crops and all of that. But one thing that I want to share with the group real quick, I started attending the grain school from the Colorado University at Colorado Springs, and it's going to be a 3-month thing. I only attended the first session last Thursday, and it was just packed full of great information and speakers, really great people out there. And the one thing that I just want to share from that session, I learned about kernza. It's a perennial grain that they start, they're doing a lot of testing, and they're implementing it now with some farmers. What really blew my mind is that if you want to be one of those trial farmers, you need about 20 acres to test it out and see how it can work in your soil. So there's a lot of great things coming down with the soil health, but it really blew my mind how Kernza, a perennial grain, can really improve the health and the sequestration of CO2. It was great. So lots to come from.
And if I may, Fernando, you showed me a screenshot that you took with the roots and how deep the roots get when you're using cover crops and different types of grains and then even trees. And I think that would be a cool photo just to pop into the chat as well. I was just thinking about that.
So let me look for that, and I'll share with the team.
Yeah, and when you put that in, Fernando, if you also just spell out Kernza, and I think that's from the Land Institute in Salina, Kansas, I believe.
Correct. Yes.
Give a reference to that, please. Great. Okay, well, I think everyone has been introduced except our speaker today, or one of our speakers. So before I move to that, I just want to share a fun thing from Alice. Alice, is it okay if I share this about the undie test? Oh, what did I do with it? Well,
Sure. If you find it, I thought it was cute.
I think it is funny. So let's see. Hope I'm sharing the right thing. There it is. Can you all see the undie test? This is from Horticulture January, February edition. So this is a way for testing the Simple Woman's test for soil fertility, soil health. So you can just read it right there. Just need 100% cotton underwear. Put it under 6 inches of your soil, and then give it 6 weeks and dig it up and rinse into a bucket of water. So may not be the thing you want to try, but hey, if you don't have a soil test, here's one for you.
Very unusual.
Alice, Alice, are you a subscriber to Horticulture Magazine?
No, this was shared with me by a woman who grows perennial grasses for sale, and she had included it in one of her emails, and it came just as you were organizing this program. I thought it was perfectly fitting. I'm sure you have to do it during the warm season when everything's active. The ground is obviously too frozen now, but it would be fun to try.
Okay, so we'll to get back to this in the summer and see who tried it and photos of the results. So Tiana was mentioning worm poop. So there, I put a in the chat box about a Facebook page. I don't know how I even found it, called Soil Balance with Minerals, Microbes, Fungi, Fertilizers, Inoculates, and Bugs. So I came across this guy who just said, anybody need red wigglers? I said, yeah, I do. So he turned out to be in Hutchinson, Kansas. And man, I got a nice 500 worms and 25 pounds of worm starter to put into my chicken litter that I have in a one-ton plastic tote, you know. And this guy is really knowledgeable. His name is Dan Rancher. So if anybody needs red wigglers, I mean, there's lots of places to get them. But that's one thing I'm really into now with having 10 hens and, you know, litter, cleaning out their litter 4 times a year and stacking that up, and wanting the worms to do some work on that, and then propagate, get a lot of worms to put back into my beds. So I'm really enjoying trying that, and look forward to telling you that it works great. If the worms could survive -6 or whatever we're going to have on Sunday night, but I have them covered up and so on. Okay, without any further ado, so we have Mitzi joining us. Mitzi, you want to say hello? People maybe don't know you, Mitzi. Mitzi's calling in from a warm place. I know that. So if she can't tell us right now, we'll get to her later. But there you are.
Hello, good morning. This is Mitzi Jett from down in Baca County, Colorado. I'm a small market gardener.
Okay, Mitzi, if you have anything you're doing for soil health, would you put it in the chat that might go with these other things, actions that people are doing, and ideas? It's good to have you on. Okay, I'm going to introduce my brother, Greg. Greg, can you hear me?
Can you hear me, Daryl?
Oh, yes, we can hear you. So that's
Okay.
good.
Okay, great.
All right. Well, I think you've been on for a little while, Greg, and you might have been hearing what people were saying they're doing for soil health.
Right. I wish I'd have got on earlier, but no problem. It's kind of good to see the different areas. All well though.
Okay. So maybe you could just introduce yourself and what you do, and then talk about some general things for soil health, and then soil amendment, which is your business, right?
Right. Okay. I'm Greg Birkenfeld, and grew up on a family farm, obviously with Daryl, and animals, cows, the whole works. And our area is blessed with lots of manure from different feedlots around and dairies and things like that. So we got into the compost business about 30 years ago, and just in the idea of trying to do something for a better fertilizer for our farm. Because lots of manure went down, but it always had lots of junk in it and a lot of counteractive things going on. But so we got into that business and ended up in the commercial side of it we ended up going landscape, lawn and garden. And now we've built a business both in lawn and garden and in ag, in consulting, and basically fixing soils. Which is very different for every area. Almost, we've gotten into a lot of prescription stuff, which can vary even on one half a section or a quarter section, or one garden to the next. So we work with all different kind of budgets depending on what people can spend. We have lots of friends in the business who are into more vegetables and things like that, higher end crops, where we do a lot of cotton and things like that, where we don't have the dollars to spend that they have. So it equates to that, but the whole purpose is to try to make each soil or soil type or situation work better, whether it be for whatever the grower's quest is, whether it's quality or just trying to make something yield, or if a problem soil that's salty or contaminated from whatever reason, our goal is to be able to fix it and make that soil perform better. One of the big misconceptions from a lot of people, especially in ag, is trying to fix things overnight. That's hard to do. The deal is it didn't happen overnight, and it won't fix overnight. The other thing we see is people looking for the silver bullet, and there isn't one. It takes a combination of things all the time. Many things in soils that work. It's good to hear everybody working toward a compost. That's an easy, because everybody's got a source of compost. Every one of them is good in some fashion, and to use what you have is brilliant. It's follows the cycle, if you will, because a lot of things are in your backyard if we'll just look for them. So those things work well. The castings you talked about, we use a lot of castings and have become more and more popular. I wish we had the space and the people to make our own, but we do not. But castings, always remember, what you put in is what you get out. What goes in is what comes out, as in with any manure, compost, or anything that comes out of an animal or human or otherwise. So castings are made. Daryl and I had this conversation. Lots castings, worms are used to clean up landfills and things like that, and you come up with a very carbonous type casting, which is great, but don't mistake that for something where you're trying to get a whole lot of nutrition. So nutrition's got to have a higher end diet. We worked a lot with a person out of Corsicana, Texas, that had a mom and pop deal, and he made the best casting I've ever seen. But his diet was like 5 things in it. Those worms had molasses, they had all the things, humate in their diet. So they didn't eat one thing all day. They had a very variety diet, and it was geared more to a highly nutritious. I've never seen a casting as good as his, but there are a lot of good castings out there, don't get me wrong, and there's not a bad casting. It's just, what are we after? So keep that in mind. It's like compost is the same way. We sell a lot of manure compost to farmers who are after something for nutrition. And personally, I think that's the wrong reason to buy compost because it does so much more in the soil than nutrition. And we're in ag, we're trained to think nutrition. That's all we can think of is NPK, and it's so much bigger than that. We could cut down a lot of the NPK if we fix the other things. So one of the big things, I guess, in 20 years that I've seen is a lot of minerals in the soil are so key to what's going on, and if we'll balance those. Several people from Colorado, there's a product that comes out of Colorado called Planters 2, mineral base with calcium. So for all you people who have alkaline soils, you know, the calcium is very effective there. So
Greg, what was that product again?
they call it Planters 2. In Soil Mender, we bag it as Minerals Plus. And there again, it's about addressing the mineral side of the soil instead of the NPK all the time, you know. So typically alkaline soils tie up the calcium. Doesn't mean they're short in calcium, it's just not available. There's a couple ways to break it loose. You know, you can use elemental sulfur. You can use a lot of humate and things like that that are really low pH. Opposites attract. So always remember, whether you're working with an acid or alkaline, you use other things that are opposite of that to get a reaction, because we're always trying to get a reaction. You know, chemical's a bad word to organic growers, but it shouldn't be. It's physics. So we got to have reactions to make things happen in the soil, and it's always happening that way. We just don't want to say it. So there's a lot of good things that happen like that through natural processes, like elemental sulfur. You know, it's a very simple process that breaks things loose in the soil. So that's been a go-to for us. And the humate, as if you can get a good grade of it, is very good for that as well. You're looking at a 5.7 pH. So against a 8 or a 9, you got boom reaction. So that's a very good thing that happens in the soil. Of course, composts are great. In the end, soil life wins. So remember that, because keep things in the soil that are alive, and that's always going to be the trump card. Is the soil life will take over in the soil in time, and it always brings great benefits. So to build a live soil is always key. So you get that a lot through composts in different ways. You know, soil biology is key. You know, you see even the big guys in ag are going into it now. Everybody's got their micro product. Whether they're actually marketing or doing something good, I don't know, but everybody's on the wagon. So so a lot of things have been done that are really good with microbiology. So
Greg here in the chat, Bruce is saying rock blasted salts minerals like NPK not derived from plants seem more efficient for hydroponics. Bruce, do you have a question about that or just a comment?
It was just adding on to what your brother was saying. I totally feel like the way we're talking about restoring soil, we just been pumping the soil full of rock phosphate, meaning nitrogen, potassium, and phosphorus, just to get the results.
Okay,
we haven't been.
Bruce, we're not hearing you too well.
Yeah, I got it backwards.
Yeah.
And they made everything too big rather than like doing the moron concept, starting small and taking care of the soil and building on there. So it's fun to me, like.
Okay.
Sorry, Bruce, it's interesting how we started mining rock minerals like rock phosphate, nitrogen, potassium, phosphorus.
I think we can read some of what you're saying.
In order to like meet the demand and increase supplies. That's the
Greg, I think you can see some of that written in the chat, but what what kind of products do you think are the best that Soil Mender has to offer for, you know, vegetable growers, small plots? You mentioned Minerals Plus. What about compost teas, or what other things are people?
Okay, a couple of the things always start off with a good compost. You build that soil from the bottom up, and you create your aeration and your percolation factor, just like building a potting soil. But then address your issues in the soil while you can, because it's hard to afterwards. But after that, yes, a good rock powder is good. Fish and Seaweed's a great product as a over the top foliar type. The compost teas, lots of people use those. The neat part about those products are they're not going to burn. The one product that we really pushed for, quote, a fertilizer, and it's nothing but a 2-1-1, is the Yum Yum mix. And the whole key behind that is, once again, this banquet of things that the plant and the soil gets to feed off of. You're not just feeding the plant, you're feeding the soil that feeds the plant. So the Yum Yum mix has 8 ingredients, so that's one of our go-tos. And once again, it's a lot like a lot of your composts. You can't burn with it if it's correctly composted, so you can't overdo it. So it's an easy sell in retail, and it just does a great job because you can't overdo this product. So those are good. It sometimes comes down to whether people want liquids or whether they want dry products. So that's the route we take.
Just from what people have heard thus far, do you have anyone have questions or comments they want to make? Greg, can you say what's in Yum Yum mix? Because
the Yum Yum mix uses alfalfa meal, cottonseed meal, kelp meal. It has rock phosphate in it. It has humate in it, dry molasses, and I'm skipping 2 because it has 8 ingredients. Green sand, there again for the iron and the capacity. One of the things, green sand is particularly getting hard to get, but it is a neat product for that. So the whole point of it is the, once again, the 8-course meal instead of one thing. Even steak is really good to a lot of people, but you can't eat just steak. So so it's the whole the banquet, if you will, of these products. So, and the other thing is that's real key in this is the availability to a plant. When you go buy something to use on your garden, always remember to look at that. What's available out of this? What's plant available? Because in the ag sector now, we're using very small amounts of things that are more available to a plant, that a plant recognizes that as, okay, I can use this now, instead of it has to be broken down. I'm going to lose a third to half of my product just because it has to be broken down, because the plant recognizes this as something they can use. That's very key. So we do a lot of that in ag as well, you know, whether it's NPK products and things like that. We have majorly cut the inputs because of using available products.
Question here, Greg, from Alice Hill in Luray, Kansas. Just wondering if you are having issues with your sources of raw materials having herbicide residues.
We don't. Our correction to any product is to clean it up by composting. And I know that's contradictory, but we can show through the tests of, I mean, we're in an association called US Composting, and they do a thing called, it's a testing program where you turn in samples every quarter, and it's a $600 test. So we have to qualify to be able to what they call STA, it's Certified Testing Assurance. So then you can advertise your products to go out. Would it be certified organic? Never, because certified organic requires everything that you have in it to be certified. But it is free from anything at all because of the composting process. Now, if you go back with that, how is that done? It's done by the cultures of microbials that you're using. So there's different microbes in manure than there are in cotton burr compost or other things like that. We do a product called Oil Hog, and we clean up oil spills. Once again, people spill oil and you use microbes to digest it. So these microbes in the correct cultures can digest anything, PCBs, all the way up to creosote, things like that. You know, it's just the process, and you put them in the perfect environment to clean this product up is how we take this on, because it is of a concern. The other thing to understand about the defoliants and stuff like that on cotton is what we come up against anymore have to be non-detectable in 72 hours. It's not like 20 years ago they were using arsenic and things like that that were just terrible. Things have changed a lot in that just because they've had to, because of the outward pressure. Is it perfect? Not by any means. Time, I guess, I don't know, but that's how we deal with it. Otherwise, we couldn't come up with 2 truckloads of organic, certified organic cotton burrs. It just wouldn't be possible. So
a couple more questions, but I want you just to comment on a lot of the folks on this call don't need a whole lot of material, so they could probably get a long way with 4 bags or 6 bags of any of the products. So you have these products available in Denver and Albuquerque, Santa Fe, lots of places, right?
right. Our products, Soil Mender is available, which we own the Back to Earth label as well. They are distributed through New Mexico, Colorado, Kansas. We have pretty good representation all through those states. The website, I would say, is a good place to start as far as finding those products. As far as the actual distributor, you know, sometimes you got to dig a little to find that, but most of the time you can get it. That's the best way to find out. But we have pretty good coverage in those states.
Okay. When people are using cover crops, like if I want to use, which I do, use buckwheat, and then I turn it into the soil before I plant something, you see any drawbacks with that? I'm just going off one of those 5 principles of soil health, which is having a living root.
Right. There's a lot to be said with it. We've done radishes, we've done lots of different covers. Every situation is different on a cover. For the most part, I can see them very beneficial. What you have to understand is you are robbing carbon to do this, and that's become another buzz maybe in the industry, but although people are realizing how important it is, you know, what is this costing me on the other side? It's kind of a good comparison, I think, is the carbon footprint of what you do here. You know, what is that costing me on the other side? So it depends. Every cover crop has its advantages and certainly is putting back more than it's taking away. But that's just one of the things that people fail to. It's like, this is an all good thing. Well, it is, but it does cost you something, or the moisture you're going to use to get it to that state. And this is more of an ag thing because they're pushing probably to get the next crop and things like that. In lawn and garden, we don't see it near as much because people are a lot more reserved in what they're doing as far as having, it's not not double cropping and things like that. You know, there's a lot to be said for just simply laying out something, you know, to let something be idle. I think that's one of our biggest mistakes in agriculture is and some of it's just forced by money, by budgets, by different things, but nobody idles anymore, you know. And where we grew up, you know, there was a few people around growing up that would do a third and a third and a third. So they always had a third idle, and it's a store bank then. And there again, if you had a cover crop there, you're gonna snag everything you can. We see it in the people who do a wheat cotton rotation. They're going to give up 1 crop in there out of 3 years because that stubble is just going to sit there and take it in. But those guys that do that, they make dryland cotton every year. So it's discipline. We hate discipline. So,
We don't want things to take a long time. There's a couple of points here, and anyone have questions or comments you want to make, feel free to do them. We have about 10 minutes left on the call. We want to make sure people get to ask questions. So Bruce is asking about with these nutrients you were describing earlier, are they mobile versus immobile? What would you say to that, Greg?
Both ways, but we particularly in phosphates per se, we've really pushed to try to get things that don't leach out. That's the big issue with phosphates most of the time. That take that one product only is they leach out so bad. So we're using things that are a lot more stable in the soil. Some of that's about what do they latch onto. So you have to have those other things in the soil to be able to do that. I guess phosphate's the big tease on this, because everywhere you go to the golf courses and things like that, their big thing is what we're getting contamination in the rivers and all in the streams and stuff like that from phosphates. My answer to that is just throw it out, because you're getting about 10% of what you're using anyway, of what you're putting down because of the availability of it. So you should throw it out before you contaminate with it. So why is this? It's because they're using things that move. They leach out so easily and things like that. So use things that are more plant available. And a lot of times your naturals are what get you to that point. We do a lot of things with a company called Redox, and they do use a lot of natural based stuff and things that are available to the plant. We can cut a farmer's budget way down by using things that are just a lot more available. So, and what does that do for us in lawn and garden? They're again the same thing. It's going to build a better food because of things that are available to the plant. We don't put all this stuff in. We don't have to, because of what we're using is more plant available. So,
okay.
That help? Or nitrogen's the same way. Use sources of nitrogen that are, and which most of you are using anyway, whether through different meals, things like that. They're just more plant available. They're recognized as a plant to a plant as something that's usable instead of something that's just going to leach out. So salts, Colorado, Western Colorado in particularly deals with a lot of salts and things like that. We do a lot of salt reclamation type work. People are using gypsums and things like that, but if you have calcium in the soil, you have your own source of gypsum, you have to set it free with elemental sulfurs, things like that. So sometimes it's good to look at a soil sample and see what I have a lot of and how do I make it available. So find a good lab. I think there's so much to be said for that. And there's some very good labs popping up, more and more technology on a lot of these things. So I think it's key to have that. And then the other thing is be hands-on, because you can tell a lot of what's going on in the soil. The plants don't lie. So.
Great. Mitzi, can you hear me? I wanted to ask you a question, Mitzi, if you can come on.
Yes.
So you use planters too, and green sand and humic acid, but the closest place you can find soil emitter products is like Amarillo. They don't have it in Guyman, Greg? You don't have
Guyman has one small store, and he gets topsoil every year, and that's it. I don't know why, but so you go north from there. I was thinking at Dodge, but the Amarillo is probably closer. Because there's a store, I can't remember the name of it, in Dodge City that carries the products, a good variety of, but I'd have to look it up.
One thing that I would just mention to everybody, having used your products for a long time, is that a little bit goes a long way. So when I want to plant my however many beds, if I get 20 pounds of Yum Yum mix or Earth Food or whatever the product is called, that will do a whole season sprinkled over the top.
Right.
So I don't know what that does for greenhouses, Mitzi, like in your case, if you need like tons or if you need 50-pound bags?
Oh no, like 50-pound bag. I just I amend each hole rather than the entire greenhouse. I just amend as I plant. And I just want to speak on the Yum Yum mix. I've used
Yeah.
that for
Okay.
probably over 10 years. I was first introduced to it by High Country Gardens out of Santa Fe. So that's a product I'm really familiar with.
Yeah.
Does it do good for you?
It's good for the soil. The worms love it. So do the centipedes in the bag.
Yeah.
I've stuck
Good.
my hand in the bag
Um,
discovering centipedes.
Good. Alice, what do you think of the kind of things you're hearing about soil amendment and these different products? Would they be any help to you?
Oh, I've been familiar with this, and again, High Country Gardens was where I first read about it. Green sand, the gypsum, all of those things certainly make complete sense. But just as your brother Greg said, you've got to start with the soil test. You have to know what's there, what's missing, what you have too much of, how to unlock that. So that soil test through whatever lab you're able to find is that's step one. And even within a very small garden area, commercial or otherwise, you're still got micro pockets. And just as he also mentioned, the plants don't lie. When I grew my peanuts this summer, they were in long rows running east and west. And about halfway through was a stretch about 2 feet wide that just looked terrible. It had iron chlorosis. They dried up. So I know something in that little stretch was completely out of balance with the rest of the garden. So those are clues you can use to micro manage your garden soils. But yeah, no, this is all great information.
Who do you use for your soil test? How do you get that done?
Oh, I have a company. Let me see if I can pull where I got that right here. I think I don't have that handy enough for us, but I went through the soil or through the extension office, and then they ship it off to their lab.
Okay, that's good to know because I think that's a question people have. So if you could let me know in an email later, we'll put that in the summary.
I think most extension offices have an outlet for soil testing.
Okay, is it expensive?
I'll put that in the chat box.
Okay, great. Got about 5 minutes left. Let's see. Colin, is Colin still with us? 6 car. Okay. Well.
Yeah, I'm still here.
Okay. What when you think about what you did at Schroeder's last year and the kind of growing you've done, what do you think about amending soil or products for that?
No, he had some hydroponics fertilizer, and it was just kind of an NPK mix that we put in. But that's all we really did. I think this next year he's just planning on putting down that fabric, that black landscaping fabric on that whole 2 acres, and just kind of doing it that way. But no, I don't have a whole lot to add to that point.
Okay. So, Greg, if Colin is going to do something with acreages that are planted in alfalfa, is there anything he should be considering as he gets in there and tries to work those up and bring them into production?
Right. What are we growing?
Vegetables, and corn and wheat and barley, probably.
Right, right. What are you in Colorado? Is that correct?
Yeah, Southeast Colorado.
Oh, Southeast. Okay, okay. Yeah, you're not quite dealing with the salt that we see over in Western Colorado or on the slope over there, but there again, alfalfa is a great follow there's a great cover crop to follow, no doubt. The available nitrogen that you have there and the form it's in is great, no doubt. The one thing I would see is to address the mineral side of it, especially if you're pushing for qualities. That would be the one thing. Probably not looking to aerate the soil much at all, or are you busting it out?
I'm not planning on busting the soil out at all. Well, I might have to because it's alfalfa, but we'll see when we get closer. Do some soil tests when we get back in March and see what we have to work with.
Right. There's another example of a plant that puts a root down that makes really cool things happen, so the roots break a lot open that, allow people to do a lot of no-till type things that couldn't any other way. So very key to the project, no doubt. So no, it should be good. I would say Yum Yum Mix is a shoe-in for a project like that because of what it offers in the mineral side and things like that. But availability or budget may control, I don't know. So.
Thanks, Greg. That's good information and good basic principles for people to think about. Things that you said, the compost is much more than nutrition, much more than NPK. Trying to create relationships, reactions in a natural way that so that our soil will be dynamic and
right.
Yeah, okay. Well, we're right up against the top of the hour. If I see that Alice has put in that that soil test costs about $48 for two tests through K-State Research and Extension, and you pay a little bit more if you want to get them to measure your micronutrients. Any other soil test possibilities, Greg, that you know of?
We use several different, but there again, we're putting quite a bit of money into them to see. We want to see how much of something we have, but we want to see how much is available as well. So it's a CO2 test as opposed to a saturated paste test. That's a whole chemistry side of it. But we like to see both of those tests for our farm people. We offer that test, but a lot of people offer a $25 soil test, and that's what you get. And any soil test is better than no soil test, but you can do a lot to get out of it. Next Level is a company out of the Nebraska area that's just come onto surface, and these guys are doing a great job. And it's some farm people that actually set this up. Their deal is neat to follow. Even if you can follow them on Twitter to watch what they're doing. There's a lot of good information out there, as you all know. So
would you write that in the chat box so people wanted to look at that one in Nebraska?
I will try. No, okay. I'll get the information. I'm going to have to send it to you to put out.
Yeah, just email it to me. Well, right. We're right up at the top of the hour, so thank you all very much. Next month, our call was going to be with our presentation will be by Chef Jess and probably Chef Fernando about Low Co Pro, local Colorado, local producer Colorado. These workshops. Do you want to say a little bit about it, Jess?
Yes, it's so Low Pro Co. I like to say that we are crazy, but not crazy enough to name our program Loco Pro. Right. Yeah, that's everyone. You're not the only person. People get it confused, but that's kind of how I remember it. Okay. But yeah, just looking to present next month and talk about the regional workshop series that we're bringing down to Southeast Colorado in fall 2021 and talk more about that and how you all could potentially support, attend, and just provide expertise as well. So see you all next month.